Van Lunen. I'm being joined by Brad Bonin, Kevin Jones, and Gerard Fabiano.
And a lion.
And a little lion.
My bad.
That's okay. This week we're going to be talking about Modern. Grand Prix Hartford is this weekend. The tournament is capped. That means they're not accepting more registered players. The maximum number of people that can play in this tournament will be playing this tournament. It's an exciting thing.
There is one way. There's one way that you guys can get into Hartford if you didn't register yet.
Grand Prix last year's trials, right?
And it's not the promo code passing priority, even though that one will.
We are doing a giveaway.
Yeah.
But that's not the giveaway. Yes, Brad is 100% correct. If you go down on Friday and play in the trials and you win one of the trials, then you are able to register for the event and play in the event.
For free?
Yep, with 2 buys.
Yeah.
So can we quickly touch on that? Isn't that going to lead to like a whole lot of collusion and insane things happening?
I would say no. They also over-register people. So, like, realistically, the tournament will most likely be more than 1,800 players.
Yeah.
My guess is that the tournament is probably going to be about 1,875 players.
Okay.
Because obviously they're going to, book a bit more, and also it's going to be the trial people. So it's going to be close to a 1,900-person tournament, which means that you're going to have to go 13-2 to make the top 8.
Yep.
And you're looking at going roughly, I would say, like a 12 or 11-3-1 to prize. Many of the 11-4s won't prize. If you're looking just for pro points, that's fine. If you're looking for some cash money, you're going to have to put up a good record. It's going to be a tough tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough tournament. I mean, it's an exciting tournament, too. It's been a while since we've had, like, a big blowout kind of event in the area. Like Grand Prix where...
Last one was Grand Prix Jersey.
Yeah.
Grand Prix New Jersey. That was back in December.
Yeah.
And, we're all from New Jersey, and everybody gets hyped
and that
about it.
tournament wasn't nearly as big as this.
No, because it was limited.
It was also only like 1,500 or 1,600.
It was still pretty big. Yeah, I think it broke 1,500 people. So a lot of the tournaments in general, the Grand Prix nowadays, you're going to see between 1,500 and 2,000 players. We are going to touch upon, or if not, we'll just talk about it now briefly. The standard Grand Prix was one of the lowest attended Grand Prix of all time in the past 7 years. It was actually 700, or actually 8 years now, 2018. Since 2010, it only had 785 players.
Which one was this?
The standard
The standard Grand Prix half of GP Seattle.
Yeah.
In Seattle, it only had
785 people, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you looked at Legacy had 1,672 or something. So it just shows the reason why it was so big, Legacy, because people want to play Legacy. People are hyped about Legacy. People love playing Modern, and people like playing Limited. And I'm gonna stick to my guns, and I'm gonna say that Standard is still a format that a lot of people don't want to play. So I hope for Dominaria to really change things up.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Hartford a bit.
Okay, Hartford first, all right.
So we've got this big Modern Grand Prix happening. This is the biggest tournaments we've had in months in our area. All three of you guys are competing. I'm going to be doing commentary there.
That's awesome.
Before the main stream. What decks do you guys think people are going to show up with? Do you think that there's going to be a particular deck that a lot of people aren't expecting, that there's going to be a lot of? That's really what I want to know. Is the people who are watching now, they're about to prepare for Hartford. They probably are already preparing for Hartford. They probably want to know what they need in their sideboards, how they need to fill out their decks. Because you don't know what you're going to play against, and I think that people like us might have a little more insight into what people in our area are playing right now.
So I guess I'll start. I think it's very important to remember that this is, in fact, paper Modern. So there are some percentage of Modern players that just have one deck and play it no matter what it is. So these are players that show up with Burn or Affinity or Merfolk or even Tron, no matter what the metagame looks like. So you need to make sure that you factor that in after you look at all of the data from like Magic Online and things like that. Modern's an expensive format. Not everybody can play the deck of the week every week. So you have to make sure that you don't slack and think that something that's not necessarily winning a lot right now still isn't going to be there.
I think that's a fairly reasonable take.
I think you made a good point about people just playing their decks. That happens in Legacy too, but not nearly. I think it happens the most in Modern, as it's the format that more people play, and it's the one that, like, your deck is quote-unquote viable for years and years, even when it isn't. But, so I think the decks that we'll see the most of are Humans, Hollow One, and Burn. I think those will be the 3 most popular decks. I think Affinity is also in there and could be more popular than any of the other 3 also. Like, I think those 4 decks are the most popular.
In terms of what I'm really asking here is, like, what decks are overrepresented? right? Because everybody knows the Black Red Hollow one is is the bee's knees. Everybody knows that humans is like the premier aggressive deck of the format. But what I don't know is like what's the deck that you think is going to be close to double digits percentage of the tournament that is a deck that people probably wouldn't expect to be?
Probably some kind of control pile.
You think so?
Like Jeskai
Yeah.
Control or something like
So,
that.
so I think that Black Red Hollow is not going to be that highly representative at the Grand Prix.
Okay.
I think that the deck is a good deck. It's definitely one of the strongest decks. I think previously I considered it one of the top decks of the format. I don't know if I would still say it's one of the top decks in the format. I think it's definitely a strong deck. I don't think a lot of people will end up playing it. I think it's kind of just like the hype, like, hey, Black Red Hollow one, they're playing the Hollow ones, this, that, or whatever. But at the end of the day, I just don't think a lot of people are going to play. A lot of people want to spend $30 for Goblin Lures. It's a card that's kind of
People aren't going to jump ship. Like Brad says, they have their Affinity deck, they have their Merfolk deck, they have their Tron deck. And playing a deck over and over again in Modern kind of rewards you. So I don't think the Hollow One deck is that strong of a deck where someone's going to be like, all right, I'm going to stop playing my Affinity deck that I foiled out and it's awesome just to play this Black Red Hollow One deck that I only have a few games under my belt with. So I think Black Red Hollow One's not going to be that popular. I think the top 3 popular decks are going to be Humans. I think Affinity is going to be really popular. I think Jund will be popular. And then, of course, Tron will be popular. There'll be like blue decks, Jeskai Control. There'll be a bunch of those decks. And it's going to be spread out so much that you could go through the entire tournament and not play against Black Red Hollow One. You could go through the entire tournament, not play against Dredge, not play against, all these decks that you might expect. So I think that that's what it's going to be. If sideboard cards you're looking for, I think you want to have the highest impact sideboard cards. I'm a really big fan of Engineers Explosives. I'm playing them then main deck and my Teamer deck. I think Explosives is one of the best cards you could have in your main deck or sideboard because it's one of the best weapons against Affinity. It's one of the best weapons against Humans. It's one of the best weapons against Lantern Control. So it's a wide variety of decks. It's also good against Jund. They have a lot of 2-drops. So a card like Engineers Explosives, it's great against Boggles. That's the type of card that you want in your sideboard. A card like Relic is a card that you want in your sideboard. It's great against Dredge. It's great against Hollow One. It's good against all the Snapcaster Mage decks that play Logic Knot as well. So if you're looking for sideboard cards, you're going towards the Relic. You're going towards Engineer Explosives. You're going towards cards that are going to have an impact in multiple ways. Even a card like Abrade is really good in your sideboard because it's great against any small creature deck like Humans. Decent against Burn because Burn might board an Ensnaring Bridge against you. So you want to have a card that could kill their Eidolon, that could also kill their Ensnaring Bridge. It's great against Lantern. It's great against Tron because they're going to have Oblivion Stone. Or even if you're on the play, you're like, land go, and they're like, land map. And you're like, okay, land Abrade. And all of a sudden, they kept a hand based on around that map, and you destroyed their strategy. So you're bringing this sideboard card in against a Tron deck, and you're bringing the sideboard in card against a human deck, which is totally on the opposite ends of the spectrum. So I think Abrade, Engineers Explosives, Relic, those are the type of cards you want in your sideboard.
Yeah. Cards that are very flexible.
Yep, exactly.
Well, no, I think
cards that are flexible, but cards that have a powerful effect.
I think
around a lot of things.
I think we're like kind of conflating high impact and flexible right now. In
Like,
some ways,
yes.
I think for what it's worth, like I absolutely agree with you that we're looking for high impact sideboard cards.
Yep.
If you want to do well in a Grand Prix,
Exactly. So,
you want like win
yeah.
your matches. You want some things like Rest in Peace and Engineered Explosives.
So like Scavenging Ooze, you don't
But-
want because Scavenging Ooze is decent at gaining life. It's decent at attacking.
Yeah.
It's decent at hitting the graveyard, but it's not good enough. Like if you play Scavenging Ooze against Dredge, they're gonna laugh. But if you play a turn 1 Relic against Dredge, they're gonna be like, man, I need to draw my sideboard card, whatever, to stop that Relic because that card's
you
really
can
good.
win through it sometimes.
I think Scavenging Ooze is a fine main deck card.
But-
Scavenging Ooze is a fine main deck card,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
I
not
agree.
powerful
It's fine.
enough to have in your sideboard. So do not play Scavenging Ooze in your sideboard, whatever you do.
If you're playing
Whatever
a
you
strategy,
do.
if
Like,
you're
you
playing
can do anything else in the world.
If you're playing a strategy like that needs to attack the graveyard, you probably have black mana in your deck. And even if you don't, you can still play Relic, but otherwise you can play something like Nile Spellbomb or like
Or Surgical,
Black
actually.
Leyline or
Yeah.
Surgical.
Probably
Yeah.
the most flexible.
I think that
plus being
the,
powerful.
the point of this conversation is not so much to tell people not to play Scavenging Ooze as it's saying don't use a card like Scavenging Ooze as your plan. If that card is in your deck, it's okay that it does those things
Yeah.
incrementally.
And don't have it in your sideboard.
Well, you can have it in your sideboard if
No,
you need
don't have it in your
another
sideboard.
threat against X matchups.
It's bad.
Like, it makes
It's
sense.
It's just bad deck
Well,
building.
if you're looking for like another threat for particular matchups, I think that there are probably better.
Yeah, like
options,
tireless
right?
tracker.
Like,
or
You
something
could just
like
have
that.
one in
Some
your
matchups
board
where
and you
might
board
want
it in
something
against
like a
Jeskai or
Ravine
something. That's
Excavator
fine.
Or like a Thrun.
Well, but I'm saying like a lot of these cards you do not want in your sideboard. Like I don't think you want tireless tracker in your sideboard. I think you want maybe tireless tracker in your main like sideboard. You should
Tireless
have
tracker is quite good against like the control decks and the Jund decks though, so it depends on what you're trying to beat.
so
I
you
think.
play it main deck, and then if it's against the aggressive decks, you board it out.
But if you're like a combo strategy that's cold to a lot of spot removal,
What-
and you're
what-
trying to
what
sideboard
combo
into like a
strategy
value
in
oriented
Modern?
devoted druid decks that are trying to combo Coco game 1 and then want high value 3-drops post board like Tireless Tracker and Course of Krufix in their post board game plan, so they can grind through Jund's removal and cards like Lightning Bolt.
I disagree with that, but that's just my opinion.
Okay.
I think a card like Worship is
Yeah,
a better
Worship's
card to have in
great
your
also.
sideboard than a tireless tracker.
Great take, Brad.
Well, I think
I'm really
I think
impressed.
Worship is a really high impact. I actually lost to Worship today.
Did
It
Matt
was-
Tumovich
Yes.
beat you with Worship?
He did. He did. It was
For
really
story
exciting.
time, story time's gonna be how Matt Tumovich was so happy because here's the deal. Okay, really quick, 30 seconds. Jake Van Lunen won a Pro Tour. Okay, to win a Pro Tour, it's very difficult. Like, there's only 4 Pro Tours a year, and you know it's tough. You're playing against the best Magic players in the world, and for someone like Matt who values trying to come up in the ranks, him beating Jake was a big deal for him, and Jake took it really well. He was happy for Matt, and it's cool.
It's
it's a
I
good-
could have. That was my only loss on Magic
Yeah.
Online, like the last 48 hours, and I've been playing a lot of Magic
Yeah,
Online.
it's
So
a
I
good
was
feeling.
just gonna have untarnished record, but Matt went and ruined it.
Was he playing the weird
Yeah.
Bloodbraid Elf Company Reflector?
No,
Mage
he was
deck?
playing green white.
He was just playing just green
green
white.
white
He
with
was just
worship.
playing cast worship. And I was gonna win. And it was so funny because I
Yeah.
totally misclicked on one turn, and
Okay.
it was like, oh man, it was so frustrating that I misclicked.
But it doesn't
And
matter
then-
because
and
he
he
can't
just,
have
like-
anything, right?
And then he draws for his turn, and I can see his top card because of Courser, and it's just a worship. And I'm just like, all right, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I misclicked. I just can't win this game.
Yeah, so but yeah, it's cool. Yeah, Worship I like a lot. Engineered Explosives, Braid, Relic, all those type of cards. Like even White Leyline, Leyline of Sanctity.
Yep.
That card is great because if you're playing against Jund and they draw their opening hand, as actually a funny story. Craig Krempels played here, and shout out to Craig Krempels, and he played here and he was playing Jund. His opponent mulliganed to 5. And he was just like, well, this is great because I have Inquisition and Thoughtseize and my opponent's on 5. I definitely win.
Yeah.
And then the opponent's just like, okay, White Leyline. And then Craig lost.
It was like,
Did he
yeah,
then
let's
play
get real
Slippery
bad.
Boggle on
yeah,
turn 1?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, the opponent then played Slippery Boggle. So
So to go back to the original question, which
Yeah.
was, what decks do you think are going to be overrepresented? What do you expect the metagame to look like? If I had to pick a single deck to be overrepresented this weekend, I would pick Boggles.
okay,
I think that
Overrepresented? Like, you think...
I think there are going to be more people playing Boggles than one would expect there to be. I think at recent IQs in the area, there's been way more Boggles than a lot of other decks that you're used to seeing. People who are generally playing decks with like a much higher ceiling in terms of skill level are jumping ship and playing Boggles. I'm playing against a lot of Boggles this week online. In our area particularly, Dan Ward, who just won a Grand Prix with Boggles inside of the last 2 months, he's from here, so there could be some like disciple syndrome going on there.
whoa.
Also,
He's
Well, I
from-
try to get rid of
whoa.
those
First
people
of all,
whenever possible.
Dan Ward, he's from New York. Okay.
oh yeah, I mean he's not a
Not
Jersey
from
kid.
New Jersey, and
Yeah, yeah.
also
Well, I'm saying,
somebody
like,
on the
he's from the
show
Hartford
here.
area.
Somebody on the show here is actually not from New Jersey. We're not going to call any names out, So, but, okay,
It's true.
It's true.
It's true.
It's true.
It's-
But
we don't blame them.
We've
yeah,
adopted
Kevin,
him though.
we don't blame you. It's okay.
It's not
I like
his
New
fault,
Jersey.
You're
you know
kind
what
of
I
from
mean?
New Jersey because you live at the Bearded Dragon.
Yeah, he actually lives
yeah.
in our basement.
So it's good. But yeah, I could definitely
I'm like
agree.
the dog in the Sandlot. Everyone's afraid of me, and I'm like in the back.
I
and
could
it's
see
like,
Boggles being big. I could see Jund being big. Affinity, Tron. People like playing their blue decks. People like playing Jeskai. People like playing Blue Moon. So really, you have to expect everything. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't want to sound like a negative person. And it's like, you know what? Probably only about 8 or 10 people are going to be happy because those are the people that are going to
Yeah.
be in the top 8.
Well,
or
I
the
mean,
ones that
okay, so
qualify.
let's just move
But
on though. So
it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that
it's a tough tournament.
Wait, can we go back to represented thing, or are you done with that?
So let's just move on.
Yeah,
from
let's
that.
move
We're
on.
kinda-
Okay.
We're kinda just getting a little off the rails here. with
Mr.
this-
New Yorker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
My bad.
But we will keep talking about Hartford.
Sure.
So let's say Hartford was starting in an hour.
Okay,
And we all had to, as soon as the show ended, register a deck.
sure.
What deck would you register
That's a great question.
right now
Man, you're
for
so
Grand
good.
Prix Hartford
All right, so
and bring to battle?
So right now, I would register for myself the Teamer deck that I've been playing. I played it here at the Bearded Dragon, playing a lot of the Magic Online. I went on a pretty sick run here at the Bearded Dragon. I was 14-0-3 in the course of 2 IQs, and these IQs got like hundreds of like about 100 people each time. First time I think it was 107. Second time it was 94, and the competition was stiff. So I definitely ran good here at the IQs, and then I ended up
14
losing.
in a row is pretty brutal.
Yeah,
That's
so
nice.
so it was 14-1-3 in the course of 18 rounds, which is excellent, and it was against like players like Lucas,
Who's very good.
yeah,
Yeah, Lucas is very good.
Michael Dirkso, very good.
yeah, Dirk. So I mean, just like good players I played against. Ted Felicetti I played against.
Yep.
So I would play Teamer. I think it's a good deck if you practice a lot. Going there, I can't say, hey, I expect to do well, or I expect to do poorly, or I expect to do medium. It's just, I feel like going into a modern tournament, it's like, you know what? I'm just going to try to play as best as I can, and that's it, and not worry about anything else.
So you're gonna play. So if the tournament was gonna start right now, you would play Teamer.
Number one choice is Teamer. Number two choice, I actually really like this Green White Hate Bears deck that I'm making for Josh. I really like it. I like the look. Here's the deal: Leonian Arbiter might be the breakout card.
Lean and
So,
Arbiter?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
not
that's good.
not
Okay.
like the Todd Stevens deck, like green white, like
No,
Death
he's
Tax.
playing like green and taxes, like
Yeah,
green
yeah,
and
yeah.
from
Taxes,
the
green
Grand
and
Prix.
taxes,
I think
yeah.
it was
That deck was there. Somebody played that over the weekend at the IQ.
Yeah.
I don't know how they did, but their deck looked good.
Green in Texas.
Yeah,
It's an incredibly difficult deck to play, for what it's worth. Like, people see Green White Hate Bears, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's a little kid deck. That deck is a pretty hard deck. A lot of what you're doing with a deck like that has to do with what your opponent is trying to do to win.
Okay, cool.
And I think that, so that's something that is worth noting, that that's not a deck that I would just pick up right now if you're planning on playing.
yeah.
it in the Grand
Sequencing
Prix.
with that deck is really.
Oh,
good.
he's just gonna pick it up.
So
Yeah.
we actually have
So let's move on to
Kevin up next.
So, Kevin, if you had to play in the Grand Prix in 1 hour, what deck would you play? Why?
This is the darkest time for me in Modern. I can't win with anything.
He's gonna say
So-
Jeskai.
No. I'm not going to say Jeskai. I don't know. So my combined record in Modern over the past 2 days, I guess, was 3-7 with
That's not even a lot of matches.
Jeskai Control and Bant Company.
It's only 10
And
matches.
neither deck felt very good, and I couldn't win at all. And if the Grand Prix was in an hour, I would play my Grixis Delver deck from summer 2016 without Gataxian Pro because it's banned.
Okay.
Um,
So Kevin's lost in the woods right now.
Yeah.
I
Brad, what
also
would you play?
like Blue Moon.
I guess Kevin's still good.
as a
Blue Moon's-
real
Blue Moon's
deck.
a
Blue Moon's
reasonable
fine.
deck.
As
Blue Moon's
a
fine.
more real deck, I like Blue Moon.
With a combo kill or fair?
I'd probably play the combo kill, but the correct thing to do is just play the fair version.
Okay.
But I'm
That's fine.
often
We'll
wrong.
move on.
Wait, really quick before Brad jumps, I played I would say 150 matches of Magic Online, and Blood Moon has been good probably about 10 to 20% of those matches.
Yeah.
So I think Blue Moon's not very good.
I'm currently playing Mardu Pyromancer,
Yeah.
and Blood Moon is a card that I sideboard out the most and discard to Faithless Looting the most.
Yes, dude, just don't even play it.
Your opponent has one basic land in play, and you're like, well, this card already has no text.
Yeah. I'm telling you, Blood Moon is just it's mind-boggling, but for some reason, Blood Moon is just not a main deck card anymore in Modern. And I
Yeah.
truly believe it. I play him in my sideboard.
Big statement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because this is a card that a month ago people was like one of the
Yes, yeah,
the biggest things that you'd have to think about when deck building in Modern. And I think as a result, now people have built their decks
Yeah.
to be able to handle it more.
Well, I
what
think
Jay said is a perfect point because
Yeah.
people adapt to the metagame.
I think
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
thing is that Field of Ruin has skyrocketed in decks. And so because of that, people are playing another basic or two more basics so that they have more lands they can find so they don't get strip mined out between Field of Ruin and Path to Exile, which just leads them to naturally draw basics more often.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So tournaments in an hour, Brad. What do you
All
plan?
right, so today I would be registering Mardu Pyromancer because we've been testing it for the last 2 or 3 days, but 2 or 3 days is obviously not a very long time to be testing decks. And if I audible off of that, I would play 4-color Shadow from the same thing that Morty played to a top 8 at Grand Prix
Toronto, right? Yep.
which I built for him, so I'll probably just run that back otherwise. With 2 changes, I'd play Lightning Bolts in the main, and I would play only blue cards in the board, no Stubbs main. But I'm between those two. So I'm gonna play some like mid-range deck with Blood Crypt in it and not Jund.
Very interesting. If the tournament was in 1 hour, do you want to know what I would play?
Humans.
Boggles.
Humans.
Oh, humans. Okay.
Humans. I've been playing humans a lot online. Been trying to play a lot of different decks to prepare to be a commentator this weekend. And as I switch from deck to deck, I find that I'll try a new deck, and I'll like win some matches, lose some matches. It'll be what it is. And then after that, I'm like, you know what? I need to like it's like a palate cleanser. Like I play a league with like some cool modern deck, and then I play a league with humans and just like 4-1 or 5-0. And then I play with some weird deck, win some, lose some, and then palate cleanser, play with humans, demolish people. I think the deck is very, very, very good. I think the list that what's his name? Antonio Del Moral.
Oh, Charlie?
This
yeah,
just
yeah.
posted a list as well.
Yeah.
That he's
won
been playing.
the,
Charlie.
Charlie.
Yep.
the Magic Online PTQ
Yeah.
with is just about perfect. The only difference I would make to the Charlie list, this is the list. This is what I've been playing recently. Is I would cut the 1 Kessig Malcontents in the main deck for a second copy of Dark Confidant.
Okay.
And
No.
besides that, I'm playing the exact same.
No Daredevil?
No Dire Fleet Daredevil.
No, it's a one of. You are playing it.
Okay.
Oh, you are playing one still. Okay, cool.
So you're on 3 Thalia then.
3 Thalia.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Nice.
So
I know
that's what
Lucas
I'm
has
playing.
recently been testing Big Thalia back in the main as a one.
Oh yeah, over that 1 Kessig Malcontent. I
Yeah.
feel like that's the one.
Yeah.
The one slot, like there's like one slot in the entire
Yeah,
game
yeah,
deck
yeah.
you can play around with. Right now, it's an
Yes.
extra confidant.
He tried Mirren Crusader and he didn't love
Some
that.
people say
so-
Restoration Angel.
Okay.
Do you
Four's,
think-
four's like a lot. I've seen Whirler Rogue even. Somebody
Yo,
played
that's
that at
cool.
the IQ against me.
I partied with Whirler
except
Rogue.
it made him play into my removal farther because he just like would commit all his resources to his 1 creature return. And I'd just be like, all right, lightning bolt that. Like with all your exalted triggers on the stack, kill it. Oh, awesome! I time walked you. Like
So now we're gonna do Trash or Treasure.
Oh,
Okay.
I had a
I'll say
question
it.
for you, Jake.
Sure.
Do you think that we all just mentioned something pretty interesting? You said 3 Thalia. Brad said he would cut Stubborn Denial from the main deck. Do you guys think that blue decks are going to be good again now? People are like starting to.
no, because blue decks can't beat Tron, and humans is still just like pretty
Okay.
good.
Because
I feel like Humans has been playing 3 Thalia for a very long time at this point.
I thought that it started with 4. I thought 3
It started
Thalia
with
was
4,
like a
but
week
people
ago.
people waffle.
It started with 4, but the lists that have been top 8ing all the Magic Online events have all been playing 3 for the last like 3 weeks.
Okay.
Steve Locke, who won the Grand Prix,
It had 3.
had 3.
Yeah.
The 2 of the top 3 trophy leaders
Mm-hmm.
are playing humans, and both of them are on 3.
All right.
Like,
So
the
Yeah.
3 has become pretty stock at this point.
Modern on Magic Online is not something I really know much about. I'm the standard
It
guy.
moves very quickly, and it's usually about a week and a half removed from paper, if not a little
Okay.
bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a dude who's 5-0'd with Jeskai like 8 times. No joke. But he's the only person I know who can win with Jeskai now.
I
kind of
I
interesting.
cannot win with that deck online. So
I'm-
that
I'm-
guy's a genius.
I'm actually baffled
I
by
cannot
some.
win with that deck
People
online.
listen. People can win with anything.
Yeah.
And people could 5-0 with anything.
I had somebody earlier today. He was playing the mostly standard cards burn deck, the deck that's like Dire Fleet Daredevil and
Rampage and
Ferocidon
Ferocidon.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm playing Mardu Pyromancer, and he boarded in Dragon's Claw against me. And then he was like chatting with me, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm 14-1 with the deck." And I'm just like, I don't. How do people that board in Dragon's Claw against mid-range decks go 14-1?
I mean, people can win with anything. Trust
Yeah.
me.
Wait, doesn't he have
so-
Ferocidon in this deck?
Yeah,
It doesn't work.
I know.
Okay.
wild.
So, anyway, let's move on. Let's do a trash or treasure segment. So
Sure.
this is where we talk about some big decks. Each of us decide whether or not we like the deck for this weekend or not, and we call the deck trash or treasure. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the deck is bad. We could talk about good decks and say they're trash just because we don't like their positioning for this week. The first deck we're going to be talking about is Mardu Pyromancer. Now, this deck was popular right after the Pro Tour. It had a lot of hype around it. Jerry Thompson did really well with it, even though most of the other people that played at the Pro Tour with it didn't do especially well. This week, on Magic Online, this deck was super heavily represented in all of the Modern leagues. This deck, I believe in the Modern Challenge, accounted for a full quarter of the
Yeah.
top 32
Okay.
of the event, and this is not a deck that's played by a lot of people. So that means that the deck was definitely well positioned and was the right deck to be playing for that event. What do you guys think about Mardu Pyromancer in Modern right now?
All right, so I have been winning with this deck a lot while making a bunch of mistakes. This deck is just like very, very, very powerful. Bedlam Reveler is Ancestral Recall, and if your opponent's trying to go late, so basically every deck that isn't Humans or Tron, your late game is just on par or better than their late game most of the time. Your late game Faithless Looting's just like filter your 3-card hand that's duds. Your Revelers always lets you refill. Lingering Souls is very hard for the 1-for-1 fair decks to deal with. And you're also just like a pile of 5 or 6 different removal spells, so it's very hard for humans to Meddling Mage away your removal. And Thalia is a little bit of a problem, but your Humans match overall is pretty solid, because you also just have Souls to jump in the air. So Tron's rough, but we've been playing the card Goblin Rabblemaster as a multiple of, just to like try to spike instead of trying to kill off their lands. Just make a wide board and make them have Ugin, because Karn doesn't necessarily do it. If they just like Karn your Rabble, you play another one, kill their, like, put their Karn to 1, stuff like that, even if they have turn 3 Tron with Karn. We're not sure that the deck can ever really beat Tron consistently, but that's the closest we've gotten to winnable. Tron is definitely the concern with the deck, though. So if you're expecting a lot of Tron, don't play it. If you're expecting a lot of fair decks, definitely jam it. I played against someone who told me all he did was cast Keranos, and he'd never lost to Mardu, and I played like 6 games with him and 6-0'd him. And in 5 of those 6 games, he like resolved a Keranos and Terminus away like 4-for-1s. I was just like, okay, dude, like, I'm just going to keep Bedlam Reveling you out. Like, the deck is very good. And I'm not very good, and I win with it a lot, so you should definitely play it.
I don't think Brad sold anybody on this deck.
So that's
Yeah,
treasure.
he was just like the most treasure.
Yeah, he was like, treasure, Thalia, treasure.
It's the most. Well, I think this is the hottest Brad's been on a deck in a long time.
Yeah, but I'm not buying
The last
it.
time I was
Let's
this
see
high
what-
on a deck, Morty top 8 at a Grand Prix with the deck, so.
Let's see what Kevin says. Kevin?
I also think the deck is treasure. I like it. I guess flexibility is kind of the word I would use to describe how you can decide. Well, velocity is the word that describes how you're able to see a lot of cards, and you're able to get what you need and you know, get rid of what you don't need. And I think that affords you to be able to be flexible and switch roles a little bit. You're pretty good against creature decks for the most part. You're pretty good against other mid-range decks because a lot of your cards have built-in incremental value. You're probably pretty good against control decks because you have a bunch of discard, and sometimes you just Blood Moon them and get them. Overall, I think that the deck is really good. I beat it badly whenever I play against it, but I just play a variety of nonsense, so like maybe that's why. I'm not really sure. I beat it with like Jeskai Control, which is probably not supposed to happen, and I beat it with Grixis Delver, which is not even a deck. So I don't really know. I don't know. I think it's sweet. I think Young Pyromancer is a hard card to play Magic with, and a lot of people don't know how to use it correctly.
I think Jeskai's favorite against it.
Yeah, no, I think so also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they can.
Send you with the matchup one time.
Yeah, but listen, if Brad and Kevin were like a salesperson, they would have no commission, and they would come home every day and be like, wife, we have no commit, we have nothing. Like, what happened? Well, the guy was about to buy it, and they said, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't buy it. It's probably not that good.
Yeah. All right. So you're gonna say treasure? Mm-hmm. All right, I'm gonna say this deck is utter trash. All right, like unbelievable trash. Was it good when Jerry Thompson did well at the Pro Tour? Well, the fact of the matter is Jerry Thompson is an excellent Magic player. He's been playing Magic for a very long time. He's smart. He's a quick thinker. Jerry is just a great player. Okay. Can you stop tossing that, please?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. It was like
I warned you.
flashbacks of somebody else. Okay.
I warned you.
So Jerry's a great player. He did well. I'm sure he had a good limited performance as well. But at the time, there was no Bloodbraid Elf. Bloodbraid Elf was not legal. So now you take Mardu and you look at Mardu Pyromancer and you say, okay, why am I playing this over Jund? They both have very similar game plans and strategies where they have early discard spells, they have Lightning Bolt, they have some good creatures, whether in the form of Young Pyromancer or Tarmogoyf or Dark Confidant, whatever the case may be. The whole thing is that Jund is just a better version of this deck. If you want to play a deck like this, a mid-rangey creature deck that could be good against other creature decks because you're going to have Fatal Push, Lightning Bolt, etc., just play Jund. You have Bloodbraid Elf. There is no... Bloodbraid Elf is a better card than Bedlam Reveler by miles. Okay? You don't have to worry about, oh, you know what? I have Lingering Souls. I have Faithless Looting. I have Bedlam Reveler. Well, your opponent probably realizes this, and they're going to bring in their Rest in Peace or their Relic. Bloodbraid Elf is just a more powerful card. At the end of the day, play Jund. Do not play this deck. I'm telling you.
So
I don't think anything you said was right. That was
Well,
wild.
I'm gonna jump in here.
You don't think anything I
Just
said was right?
No.
Guys, in
I
the
think
chat, if
there's-
you think I'm right, let me know.
I
Let me
just
know.
want to. Can I just jump in for 1 sec?
Sure.
I just wanna-
explain
go,
much
yeah.
of the deck, so
I want to come in the middle here. So I agree with most of what Gerard said on power level, but I think that the reason that the Mardu deck is better is because you get to play 7 or 8 discard spells. You get to play more discard.
You could
because
play
you
7 or
don't-
8 discard spells
But
anyway.
Jund's new game plan is so facilitated on jam Bloodbraid and hope I spin the wheel into something good, and their curve has gotten much, much higher, so they also play worse against cards like Thalia. Whereas the Mardu deck's curve is relatively low and it operates on fewer lands more of the time. So if you don't get to your Bloodbraid, Jund is a lot weaker than it used to be. You don't just like jam 2-drop, jam 2-drop, jam 2-drop, Lily you.
What cards did they take out for Bloated Elf?
They cut like 2 Thoughtseize, a Scavenging Ooze, and like another cheap card, and they cut some number of early removal, like Terminator Dreadbore, to play more Kolaghan's Command. So their curve is just like exploded higher.
Isn't there 3 drops, only Liliana and Kolaghan's Command?
Sure, but there's like 4 Lily of the Veil and 1 or 2 Lily Last Hope and 2 or more Kolaghan's Command. Sometimes there's a Maelstrom Pulse. There's always 4 Bloodbraid, and the deck
I mean,
doesn't
one
even.
pulse is correct, by the way. I would
And the
play
deck
one
also
pulse,
plays a
yeah.
few more lands, so it top decks a little bit worse late, whereas Reveler and Faithless Looting let you top deck forever. I don't know.
Faithless Looting, you just never run out of gas, and you see so many cards.
But that's not to say that
Faithless
Blood
Looting does not run you out of gas.
No, but it does let you
Like,
filter late bad
filters
draws.
you,
but
but-
that's not to say that Bloodbraid Elf is not a way better card than Bedlam Reveler. That you're definitely right about. Bloodbraid Elf asks nothing of you. You cast it and it hits a good card.
Yeah, so its baseline is way better than
Yeah.
Bedlam Reveler, but Bedlam Reveler is a better card in the context of Mardu Pyromancer than Bloodbraid Elf is in the context of Jund. Like, Bedlam Reveler is utterly maximized in the Mardu Pyromancer deck.
So I think that
And
your
so-
argument was
Bloodbraid
correct,
Elf is just
but it
good.
didn't lead to your conclusion.
Period.
I think we've gotten so enough time and turned this into more of a debate on what's better, Jund or Mardu. And so Gerard thinks this is trash. Both of you think this is treasure. If I had to talk about the Mardu deck, I'm gonna have to come middle of the road here, and by the end of my statement, I'll decide whether or not I'm gonna say trash or treasure. So this deck was very, very strong in the Modern Challenge on Magic Online that just happened. However, I think that this deck is more than anything a mid-range metagame deck. Whereas when you talk about a mid-range deck like an Abzan or a Jund, first of all, I think Abzan is better than Jund right now, and you don't put them right off.
No, I think Abzan's a great deck too. Yeah.
But I think that this deck is a deck that's very good at beating what it's trying to beat. Jerry Thompson, who top-aided the Pro Tour of this deck, he's very good at building decks that beat metagames, that beat the decks he expects to see. And as a result, decks that he builds are probably not going to be the best weapons for a modern Grand Prix. A Grand Prix where you're going into this event and you're going to be playing 15 rounds of Swiss, where you're likely to play against 10 plus different decks, right? So it's really hard to attack a specific metagame. And a deck like Mardu Pyromancer, that deck is going to demolish your creature deck opponents. It's just going to make short work of all the humans players, all the merfolk, the elves, all that garbage. You're just going to demolish them. However, when you start playing against wacky nonsense, the wacky nonsense part of the day, they're all going to beat you.
Yeah.
Every wacky nonsense person in the room is going to demolish you. So, if you get to round 7 and your record is not pristine at that point, you're just gonna take these hits where when you play against random person who's playing their weird deck, you will not be able to beat them. And that's a dangerous thing for a modern deck. And because of that, I'm gonna say that this deck is trash.
Okay.
Agrees.
When we're testing decks, we actually call that metric the nonsense test, and we 100% agree that it fails the nonsense test.
Okay.
The deck could win the Grand Prix. We're not saying, Marty,
Absolutely.
we could be here next week and
Powerful
we
strategy.
could
If
say,
you play humans 6
congratulations
times,
to
you'll
this
probably
person.
top 8.
But,
I think it's a good deck if you're a Platinum Pro because you have 3 less rounds of the nonsense test.
I think that
I think
more
Kevin is
buys
testing us with
does
a
have
nonsense
something
test
to do
now.
with
What?
with your ability to.
You think it
circumvent
doesn't
them.
have anything to do
No,
with
I
it?
think it does.
It
I
definitely
think
does.
Yeah.
If you have to play in round 1 of the Grand Prix, you're much more likely to play against nonsense.
Yeah.
Than...
But the nonsense deck is still a good deck. The Taking Turns deck is a good deck. Every deck
absolutely.
Every
I
deck
agree.
is
The
good.
nonsense decks are good. I hope I didn't give the impression
Yeah,
that
yeah,
nonsense
yeah.
decks are...
But
They're just non-meta.
I don't think there is a nonsense deck.
I
Oh, there's
agree with
definitely
that.
nonsense decks.
I don't think
Well,
so.
I mean-
Green Devotion?
whatever.
What else is a
The
non-card
modern,
deck?
I don't know.
Scales?
The
4-color
Sam
Sigili?
Party 5-0s with it.
Yeah,
The modern
every
card
deck
pool is
good.
just so wide that you can find broken synergies no matter how obscure your deck appears.
So here's another deck that did really well in the Modern Challenge. Not really well at large, but it made it to the finals. And this is a deck that I would not have expected to make it to the
Oh, yeah.
finals. Affinity.
Yeah.
Absolute stock Affinity. What do you guys think of stock Affinity in Modern right now?
It's great.
Yeah, yeah, I think Affinity's great too.
It's
Oh,
treasure. It's probably the best deck.
The Affinity pros have all like jumped off the deck. They say that they can't even get to 50% win rate. Peter Tabergen doesn't even play Affinity anymore.
The machine
No,
says
he's
it's the
playing
best
Affinity at the
deck.
Grand Prix.
He played not Affinity this week and last week.
He played not Affinity this week and last week just to prove to himself that he should play Affinity, and he proved to
Okay.
himself that he is going to play Affinity.
Okay.
So Peter is one of the better.
Peter's a master.
One of the better Affinity players out there, and he had a good amount of success with Affinity, and he wanted to try another deck. I actually played him in the recent IQ. He was playing Death Shadow, and he just said that he wanted to try it, and he's going back to Affinity. And I think Affinity's great. Affinity is definitely treasure. I think that if you want to play an aggressive deck, I think Affinity is probably the best aggressive deck to play. I think it's miles ahead of Burn because you attack at different angles and you have more than just one game plan.
Yeah,
Humans.
I really like Affinity.
Humans is like the most known deck that
Humans is like a disruptive aggro.
yeah.
deck. Humans is more like
It's
it's like a
disruptive
fish
aggro.
deck that just
Yeah.
doesn't play fish.
Humans
kind of
is
is.
like Merfolk.
yeah,
Well,
kind
that's
of is.
literally
yeah.
a
If
fish
Merfolk
deck.
was
That's
good.
what I just
Yeah,
said.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
a
It's
disruptive
like
aggro
so
deck.
much better than
Meddling
Merfolk.
Oh
Mage,
yeah, but it's a
Kitesail
disruptive
Freebooter,
deck. It's
Dahlia.
not just like linear.
Those three cards, Dahlia, Meddling Mage, and Kitesail Freebooter, shifted to having a more of a disruptive role, where Affinity is like, all right, I'm going to hit you with a wide array of creatures, or I'm going to hit you in the air with a big guy because I put a Ravager or plating on it. So Affinity's attacking you damage in different ways. They can go wide or they can
Yeah.
go big, where Humans is more of a, I'm going to try to disrupt you. I'm going to try to come out fast, but I'm also going to throw in some disruption there.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely different strategies, but I think
Yeah.
they are both aggro strategies.
Yeah, but one.
And
yeah.
I think that when you're playing against Affinity, an important thing to note when you're playing against Affinity is I like to think in my head that they have cards that matter and cards that don't matter. And when they play Steel Overseer, I kill it or counter it on sight. When they play Cranial Plating, I kill it or counter it on sight. When they play a Ravager, I kill it or counter it on sight.
Yep.
And besides that, I just let them do their thing and I
Oh,
do my thing.
no,
In case
Edge
you guys-
Champion
wait,
is nonsense. I've never played a deck that's good against Edge Champion in my life.
Well, I mean, you can't kill him as champion. So it's
Yeah.
not
You have to
even
just
worth it.
register
Really quick,
Thought-Knots
in
here.
case you were
Like-
wondering, Jake always has a removal spell or a counter spell in his hand. Because when I play against Affinity, they play a Steel Overseer, I don't have anything, I lose.
Yeah, well, Jake
I
actually plays 3 Seal of Primordium in his Bogle's main deck, just so he can always destroy an artifact.
Yeah, but
I have not lost to Affinity in months. Like I don't know who's winning with this deck.
Jake
to
is
be honest, I
definitely
swear.
correct with the fact that you have to kill Steel Overseer. You have to
Yes.
kill Plating.
Yeah.
You want to be able to stop Edge Champion from coming down, even Master of Ethereum. So he's right. There are some cards
Alright.
that have a huge impact, and then there's Ornithopter.
Yeah.
Then there's Memnite. So then there's
Alright.
Springleaf Drum.
So, Kevin, you said treasure?
yeah, both of us says
I
treasure.
think Affinity is treasure. It's pretty. I just think that it's come back around. So like every few weeks or a month or whatever, like the targeted hate for Affinity from people's sideboards starts to slip as the performance of the deck starts to slip, and then people will have 1 to 2 less cards for Affinity on average, and they won't be thinking about it in their game plans as much. And then it'll start winning again. It's just like a cycle.
Wait,
like the deck just comes back every few
Right.
months.
Wait,
I'm just gonna go really quick.
Give Kevin like 30 more seconds because as he keeps talking, he's gonna bring it back and be like, you know what? It's actually not that good. And he'll wish the clock.
No,
So-
it is really good.
This deck is treasure because Peter Tabergen says so, and I stand by him. He's just
Yeah.
like the local master on Affinity, and if he says it's good, then it's good.
Well, I think that also.
I'm gonna say that I'm just gonna cut you over here.
You're
I'm
good.
gonna say this deck is trash. I think that online this deck is probably pretty good right now. People in their sideboards are starting to skimp on artifact removal. The big Haymaker cards that you're used to seeing people playing their sideboards to beat Affinity, they're not there anymore. In real life, that's not going to happen. People are going to show up to the Grand Prix. People are going to have 4 to 5 slots in their sideboard they're bringing in against Affinity. Those are going to be really strong cards. It always happens at every live tournament. I would not want to be playing Affinity this weekend. That's just me. So, I don't know. Did you guys have more to say about Affinity, or should we?
No, I think we can move on.
All right.
I think we're good. Yep.
So the last deck I want to talk about is a deck that we talked about last week, but I wanted to get a sense of where everybody was on this deck, because last week we were kind of super high on this deck. We felt like this was the deck to beat in Modern. This was the rising star, and that's Black-Red Hollow One. This deck had a lot of hype last week. The people who were playing it on Magic Online were, you look at the name next to the person who was playing, that deck would be like a Little Darwin or something like that. Like, these insane, like, best Magic players of all time level players.
Yeah.
Playing this deck. So
Canister was playing it, and he used to play he's the Lantern guy.
He played Lantern again today.
Yeah, he was playing Lantern again, but he was playing it in the mocks or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
So, Gerard,
All right,
what do you think of the Hollow One deck right now?
I talked about it last week. I thought it was one of the top decks. The more I think about it, the more I think that the deck is leaning towards trash, because it's a deck that relies so heavily on things going according to plan. There's other decks that could do things or have buffers where if things aren't going according to plan, you have ways to help. Say, for example, Tron, right? Obviously, you want to just go turn 1 Tron piece, turn 2 Tron piece, turn 3 Tron piece. But if you can't, well, you're going to have cards like Ancient Stirrings, you're going to have cards like Sylvan Scrying, you're going to have cards like Expedition Map to really help you. This deck right here relies on you having a turn 1 Burning Inquiry, or maybe even a Faithful Suiting, depending. They obviously want Burning Inquiry more. Then you want to be able to have to keep your Hollow One, so you'll be able to put into play, but you're also going to have to draw your Hollow One. Then you're going to have to worry about if my opponent has Graveyard Hate, because Bloodghast, Phoenix, Angler, all these cards really suffer from sideboard hate cards like an overlap. So you need a lot of things to go right. And if you think about it, a deck like Blue-White Control has an insane matchup against this. They have Path to Exile, they could play Oust, they could play Detention Sphere, Rest in Peace, Supreme Verdict. The deck doesn't really have good answers to Supreme Verdict. Maybe you could rebuild with Bloodghast or Phoenix, but you need a 4-power creature. You'll need a land. You'll have to hope they don't have any Graveyard Hate. Overall, I'm kind of lower on this deck. I'm not going to say the deck is trash by any means. I still think the deck is great. I think it's a treasure deck. I just think it's going to be not as represented as maybe we thought in the past. And I think it maybe lost some of its standing power.
So,
Kevin, your take on Hollow One.
I think it's treasure. I think that a lot of the things Gerard said are true. However, like a lot of the cautions that he was voicing, like the concerns. But I think that what the deck really does is like tries to do broken, unfair things like very quickly. And it doesn't matter that like Path to Exile's in your deck. Like you only have like 8 threats or whatever, Like you have Phoenixes and Bloodghast, but those are like ancillary threats. And like the main threats are like Hollow Ones and Gurmag Anglers. So like you're going to try to
I don't know, man. The Flameblade Adept kills me.
Oh yeah.
I forgot
I
about that
lose
guy.
to that card so much more than I lose to turn 1 Hollow. When they go turn 1 Flameblade Adept, and then they untap and they go like Looting Inquiry, and I'm like, oh no, I'm at like 11 because I fetched Shocked for my turn 1.
Yeah, so I just think that they're never really going to be able to construct a strategy like this deck in a way that Path to Exile is not good against it. Like, it's always going to be good, but like they're just being like, hey, I have a 4/4 on turn 1, I have a 5/5 and a haste creature on turn 2 or whatever. Like, if you can beat that, you got me. If not, like, it also gets to play one of the best sideboard cards in the entire format, but it gets to play that card main deck in Collective Brutality, which I think is a really, really good card, both right now and basically has been in Modern for like the past year and a half. So yeah, I like Hollow One as treasure. I think people saying something like, oh, Hollow One has a lot of threats that are easily dealt with by 1-for-1 removal. Like the Bloodbraid Elf being the dominant like deck, or when it first got unbanned, like being in the dominant decks, had like shifted the type of removal being played from Fatal Push and Terminate and stuff like that to Lightning Bolt, chiefly just Lightning Bolt. So like there were like red-green decks that only played Lightning Bolt. There were some decks that didn't even really play any removal at all. And like as a consequence of this, like Path and Push and stuff like that was worried about Death Shadow went down. And the result was that X4s like Hollow One or larger like Gurmag Angler, Tassiger, that type of thing actually became good again. So I think that this deck is treasure, and I think that Bloodbraid Elf actually caused this deck to get better.
Interesting. Brad.
Okay.
You're taking a Hollow One.
I think that this deck is treasure at high, like what I'll call high elo events. So like mocks and Grand Prix and Pro Tours. And I think that it's trash locally because I think too many people that let you abuse the graveyard for free. And I think too many people just like jam turn one Burning Inquiry their 5 matches in their league and put the deck down because they don't hit turn 1 Hollow because, they're not drawing Nat Tron every hand.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think like turn 1 Hollow One is what everyone should try to do, but it happens
I think if you have a Hollow One in your opening hand, you
should go for it. Yeah.
Go for it. Absolutely.
But I just think that like even turn 2 Gurmag Angler or turn 1 Flameblade Adept or turn 1 Flameblade Adept that attacks for 4 plus is like really powerful, really fast.
Yeah.
And still makes them like, oh, have Path or Die or have.
But I'll see people that just like snap keep a hand that's like 1 land, Faithless Looting, Burning Inquiry, trash. And I'm like, that's definitely like the deck can win on 5. You don't actually like I lose games where my opponent mulls to 4 and still just goes like Cycle Street Wraith, Faithless Looting, 2 Hollow Ones, Hellbent, go. And I'm like, I still can't ever beat this.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how many cards you have left in your hand when I'm dead.
What all the decks that we've called Treasure have in common is that they all mana than it actually has.
And it also has canopies.
And has canopies to cycle, exactly. So like
I don't know, I tap all my mana almost every turn.
Yeah.
When I play that.
But
you
that
just never draw 5 lands.
That just facilitates the point, right?
I do, but
like
by then they're dead.
That's the point. It's that like all these decks that are doing well are taking advantage of the fact that like this Bloodbreak JSON ban had again shifted the modern meta towards like a turn 4-y like mid-rangey cluster mess, whatever you want to call it. And these decks are all taking advantage by spending like 7 mana before turn 4 or whatever. Like they're just it's just like see 3 new cards on turn 1, see more new cards on turn 2, put a threat into play, et cetera, et cetera.
On this deck, and on the Hollow One deck, I think that the deck is almost certainly Treasure, based on what people have done with it, based on how well it's done in major events, based on the respect I have for the players that have picked up this deck in recent weeks. However, I've played against it, I want to say 4 times in the last 24 hours. And I'm 4-0 against it, and I believe I've lost 1 game. I think that one of the things that happened with me when playing against this deck that I've had to learn was that early on I was over-sideboarding against this deck. And I think that this is a deck that's very easy to over-sideboard against. The thing is the fact that they're attacking from the different angles that they're attacking from, the Hollow Ones are coming out of their hands, they have a lot of graveyard interaction, then they have, the things that want to come back from the graveyard that you maybe want to turn off with a cage, but then they can also exile their graveyard, put things like Tassiger or Angler into play. It can be really hard to know how to, handle all those things. And it's also important to note that even if you are shutting off their graveyard, they're still just casting those Phoenixes. And Phoenix, it's like a hasty flyer. That thing kills you. And especially if you're spending cards to turn off their graveyard. So I used to over sideboard against the deck. Now that I'm sideboarding, like 2 or 3 cards as opposed to sideboarding like 5 or 6 cards, I found myself beating them a lot. I think this is a deck that is powerful, but the fact that I'm playing, that I'm mostly playing humans and that I'm beating this deck a lot speaks volumes about, how good it is. So
I think this deck is more like Infect than Dread. I think like the way to beat the deck is to have like an unconditional removal spell early, and it's not like, oh, you don't need like, I guess Leyline of the Void would be good, but like you generally don't want to like you said, over sideboard like weird narrow graveyard hate cards, and like even Relic might be too slow if you're on the draw. You want these cards, but like again, having them be the focus of your plan, I think is underestimating the deck. I think the deck is really just like an aggro deck.
Yeah, I think that's that is likely true. You just need to kind of sideboard, as if you're playing against a more aggressive strategy. Powerful cards in Modern right now. A card that I think is really well positioned for this weekend that we've talked in particular. If you had to play a Collected Company deck, just quick answer deck, would you play this weekend?
All right, I can start. I would play the Collected Company, where I would definitely want to have the combo in there. I think having the combo where you get infinite mana and you filter through your deck. So I would play some type of green-white version of Collected Company with 100%. I'll play the combo.
So, you just don't know if it'd be Ban or Abzan or what?
Abzan, but I would definitely want to have the combo in there. I don't think Ban gives you too much. A Spellcaller is like okay, but if I'm going for the I would probably play Abzan.
Reflector Mage is pretty good.
Yeah, Reflector Mage is fine.
I kind of feel like Reflector Mage and Spellcaller are awesome.
Yeah, they are awesome.
In certain matchups, I mean, if you're a humans player, you obviously don't want to really play against Spellcaller or Reflector Mage. But if you're a Tron player, you're not going to care as much, or even a Storm player,
I would play Elves. That's the deck I would play. I think I was Bant guy for a while, and I think that Bant was good at combating all the other mid-range decks. The decks that sought to maximize Jace, the decks that sought to maximize Bloodbraid Elf, I think both of them were you can collect a company with. But Elves, I think, is really good and has a fast combo draw. Also is able to play the Druid Vizier combo as well. And it just has a bunch of Lords and a bunch of sweet things. A bunch
So
of
you
synergy.
would play elves with the Vizier combo.
Yeah, just like you don't have to play a lot of Viziers. You can just play like one.
Because it already just like works with the
There's no
Zuri.
cord for
It already plays Cord. Yeah, just like...
Unfavored against decks that are piles of removal.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean the fair deck.
Yeah. Like if you have Tracker Courser, good against Jund. If you have 2-1 with no text, bad against Jund. So I would 100% play Bant, 100% play the combo, 0% play Retreat to Coral Helm. And I would have 2 Jace in my main deck and 1 Jace in my sideboard. And I would definitely register 4 Reflector Mage and 4 Neither, because I could not beat the cards that people had decks that used to have 1. I could not. If I succeeded to do that, I won.
There are a lot of matchups like that. Interesting. So I'm gonna kind of echo Kevin a little bit here, but go on a little bit of a different path. I would also play elves. I've played Jund elves in a number of leagues, playing Bloodbraid Elf and Shaman of the Pack. I know that Gerard lost a lot of tickets playing this deck. It did not work out very well for him. But I've won a lot of tickets playing this deck, and I think it's quite good. There were quite a few people who were 5-0ing with this deck a couple weeks ago. I switched up their deck list a little bit. So if I had to play a Collected Company deck, I would also be playing Elves. I would be playing Bloodbraid Elf. I'd be playing Shaman of the Pack, and I'd just be playing the stock Elves list. I won on turn 3 a lot. Won on turn 4 a lot. Deck's powerful.
One on turn 5, a lot.
Yeah.
Died on turn 6 a lot.
Yeah. It did not win many games past turn 5.
Yep.
And that's why Gerard didn't really like it. He wants to be able to play a long game.
Yeah, Gerard doesn't want to win till turn 38.
Yeah.
No, sometimes I win quick. Sometimes I lose quick. It depends.
All right, so we're going to talk a bit about some of the upcoming events that are happening here this week.
I'm pumped for one of these events.
Yeah, we are having a team event here where each member of the winning team will be winning a Mox.
Not a Mox Opal.
Not a Mox Opal.
Not a
We're
Mox
talking
Diamond.
A Power 9 Mox.
Like, we're talking like a Ruby, an Emerald,
Emerald,
a Sapphire,
no,
a
a
Jet.
Jet.
Not
Yeah,
even
yeah.
a Mox
Yeah.
Amber.
Yeah.
A real Mox.
It's a Jet, Ruby, and Emerald, I believe. So it's the Jund colors. So if you like Jund and your friends like Jund, this is 1,000% the tournament for you.
Yeah, and it is team constructed, so you get one guy who plays Standard, one girl that plays Legacy, and a dog
to play
that
Modern.
plays Modern, or like an elephant that plays Standard, and
a baby
stuffed
chicken.
lion that plays
Yeah.
Legacy.
just find people
Or animals.
or animals that play different formats, put together a squad, bring them out here, try to win a Mox. It's going to be insane. When is this tournament? It's on
The 27th.
the 27th.
It's
which I
Dominaria
believe
release
is-
weekend.
Oh, it's Dominaria release weekend?
It's
Yep.
2 weeks from this
Wow.
weekend.
It's a Friday.
Standard's
It's a
gonna
Friday,
be
correct?
shaking up a lot.
It's
this
a
is an exciting
Friday
thing
night,
too,
right?
Friday
because-
night.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the biggest wrenches in this tournament is that people are going to have to play
Standard.
in a rotated format. And I think that the difference.
It's not a rotated format.
No.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's
So-
not. It's
no,
not
no
a
cards
rotated
like-
format. There's a.
So a new set being added to Standard. It's going to change Standard a lot.
Yeah.
Like, this is a powerful set. And now we somehow need to find out, what's good in Standard. And I think that's going to
Fortunately for you guys, that's my problem.
Wait, it's the 27th?
We'll help you out.
Is that the weekend of Grand Prix Columbus?
I don't think so. I think that's the 5th and 6th. I
No,
think.
I think it is the weekend of Grand
Oh,
Prix
it might
Columbus.
be. Yeah.
Brad might have to
Okay.
take my spot.
Oh.
On this team?
Yeah.
Deal.
Okay.
I'll take the win for you. It's all
Yeah.
right. With these two by me, I
Yeah.
only have to win, a quarter of one match?
Yeah.
So I have to,
You can
deal
play
my
Legacy
opponent's...
really well. You're great.
I have to deal my opponent 6 damage
You'll probably
in
win
game
more
1.
matches than me. I'll have Wizard Counterspell and Wizard Lightning
Don't
Bolt in my
you
deck.
play
No,
Wizards.
you're not doing that.
You're not playing Wizards.
You're not playing
You're
Skyrits.
just gonna play Mono Red.
I don't red. I'll
Sorry.
just play
You might
whatever Scarab God.
We'll just put for worse.
Why is this happening? I play Legacy.
He can't read.
I play Sneak and Show.
He's gonna try to sneak a show in on missions,
why is
and then
this
he's gonna
happening now?
pass.
I could play Delver, but I'm not good at it.
You should play Delver.
I went 10 and 5 with it once. That's the
He's gonna
best I
cast
ever
the
did with
spell
it.
before he
He
wastelands.
actually won the Legacy World Championship playing Delver. He actually won the Legacy World Championship.
I heard his
Like,
Delver's always flipped.
No, I just had 2 main deck Pyroblast, and everybody cast Treasure Cruise, and then I countered it, and then I cast Treasure Cruise, so I won.
That's what his Delver's always flipped to. Treasure Cruise that drew him 2 Pyroblast.
This is the Friday after the pre-release, correct?
Yes.
And sealed.
It's a sealed pack in all the packs. We used Kevin and his squad of shipping room gerbils to remove the packs.
I like the word gerbils.
They keep him company and they keep him warm on those cold bearded dragon basement nights.
So our winner is Neo Wiseman 10.
Yes, congratulations.
Sounds
Well
pretty
done.
good.
Neo Wiseman 10,
That's
congratulations.
a Dominaria box, right?
A
Yes.
sealed box of Dominaria with all 36 packs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's
Sealed
an
box
amazing
of
prize.
Dominaria with all
May or may
36
not
packs.
contain packing gerbils.
Still in the box.
And maybe this lion
we
will
will
be
not
taped
take
to the
any
top.
of the packs out of the box before sending it to you.